happening. And I think it's important to remember our experience is different to white women, to white men. Let me take you back a little bit more again. What is it like to be a Black woman in leadership role? My experiences have been a lot of microaggression. I cannot express my feelings with a loud voice, because I'm sure if you're a Black person watching this, especially for a Black woman watching this, we have been called aggressive, we have been called angry, where a woman, a white woman or a white man, are usually referred to in that situation as passionate, as those who are very powerful. So the connotation is always different. So we need to constantly watch. And I'll give an example. I don't know if many of you have been following the recent case of Sharon Osbourne and Cheryl Underwood, who is a Black female comedian. I would really encourage you all to go and watch that clip, because what you will see is exactly what I'm constantly talking about, how Black women are treated differently. Sharon Osbourne is asking a Black woman to educate her on racism. It's not up to me to teach white people on racism. Racism was created by white people, so white people should be in a position to educate themselves. But it was the tone Sharon took with her that was really disturbing. But what Cheryl had to do through the whole time is what Black women, including myself, had to do many, many times. It's keep calm, composed, because if Cheryl did what Sharon has done, the outrage would have been much different. And I think it's very important to really keep an eye on that. This is just a week ago this happened. So when I say Black women in leadership or in particular roles, they are, even though they're in powerful position, but they're still expected to tone things down. You're not allowed to show your anger or frustration. And what really frustrates me most of the time, actually, as a Black woman, I mean, now I own my anger. I have every right to be angry, actually. If I'm receiving racism the moment I leave my house and I'm exposed to misogynistic behaviors and a patriarchal system is trying to control me at all times, I have every right to be really mad right now. So I think if you're a Black woman watching this, you have every right to be pissed off. There's a reason why you should be pissed off. And our white allies, our friends, should be creating a safe space for us to be angry and acknowledge there's a reason why we're angry. So we're not just leaders, we are constantly have to maintain our emotions. So when I'm demanding or leading, it's out of my passion on what the changes I want to make, because I'm a change maker.
Good, great morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. I am Dr. Sheikah Houston. Welcome to the R.E.A.L. Academy, and my trustmate and partner in education, Dr. Tammy Taylor. And I thank you all for joining us. Good morning, Tammy. Tammy, you're on mute. Let me take you off.
I told you. I told you I couldn't remember to do that. But good morning, everybody. And good morning, Sheikah. Thank you guys for joining us this morning. We're super excited to have everybody, and we are definitely going to get started. But before we do, I just want to take a second and ask everybody to please be prayerful in the loss of my aunt, Bernice Stringfellow, who is a beautiful, passionate woman of God that we lost this week. And please pray for her boys, who will be getting things ready for funeralization of her tomorrow. Kendrick and Derek, Kevin, Shadrach, and Josh. Just keep the family in prayer, because we are definitely all going to miss her. She was a wonderful, wonderful woman. So thank you so much for your prayers. And we're here this morning and talking about strong Black women, because my Aunt Pat was one of the strongest women that I know. So I think it's fitting that this morning we acknowledge her. And again, thank you for your prayers.
Definitely praying for you all, Tammy. And she was a great and strong woman. So my condolences to you all and your family and her
Thank
son.
you. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us in the Real Academy. As Tammy stated, today we are still talking about the impact of Black women leaders. And as Black women leaders, if this is your first time tuning in, Tammy and I are the co-founders of Create and Educate. We are an educational consulting and literary firm. We help improve schools, but we also work with entrepreneurs to find innovation for schools that are so really. I know it's an echo. Okay, well maybe that fixes it when we mute. Okay, so I muted you, Tammy, just so you'll remember. So Tammy and I, why you should be listening to us, we improved our schools 2 and 3 report card grade levels in 1 year with the help of our dynamic staffs. We could not have done that without teachers working in the work that they do on the ground. But we led those schools, and those schools improved 1 and 2 grade levels in 1 year in our state of South Carolina. We're also best-selling authors. Between the two of us, we have 40 years of experience between us. We have been in the teacher position, assistant principal position, district leadership positions, and we also serve on multiple boards in our area. So we want to pay it forward by helping other leaders and other schools, because we know how important it is to impact the lives of children. So there's not like a lot of research around Black women and their impact on leadership, as Tammy has found, because that was a focus for her dissertation. In our intro video, you saw Dr. Leela Hussan from the University of St. Andrews. She made several great points that Black women in leadership and just historically have experienced microaggressions, racism, and misogyny, but we're still expected to keep calm and to definitely be composed, even when we may be in situations where anger is relevant, being powerful is relevant, and passion is relevant. If we show those things in our positions, a lot of times we are labeled as angry, difficult, or aggressive, whereas our white counterparts are given those positive labels of, oh, she's a go-getter, or that person is so compassionate, they have so much passion. So this is why this topic is so important, because this video that we showed, the intro video, is a year old, but during that time, her university took 600 years to even elevate a Black woman to that position that she was in at that university. And she also mentioned how our white allies should be creating these safe spaces for us to be able to lead and make a difference and have that impact. And also that it is not the responsibility of Black people to educate our white counterparts about racism that we didn't create. So a lot of times when she referenced that Cheryl Underwood and the Osborne incident, where Ms. Osborne had challenged Cheryl Underwood about, well, explain this to me, that wasn't her responsibility to educate her about that. But we did find a great article, and we thought the video was a good segue into how Black women leaders have been impactful on the principalship. And we're educators, so we're specifically talking about the principalship. Tammy, you had found some really good points in the article. What were some of the ones that you found? And I know it's one that you've even referenced in your research.
Yeah, I did. I was really struck when in the video she was talking about how we are forced sometimes into stepping away from how we really feel, or really speaking out if we have a thought on something because we don't want to be perceived as being angry or being volatile or hostile, because that's the way sometimes we're received if we speak passionately about something or if we challenge something, because we are not to be challengers without it seeming like you're creating hostility or you're trying to undermine the person that is at question. And in the article, and I did use this was one of the points that I had to use, because what it says is the traditional theorization of leadership, which values whiteness and masculinity, has been one of the things that resulted in a systematic neglect of Black women principles in the literature. And you were talking about how Black women principles and their impact and influence and their leadership doesn't show up in the literature a lot. And that's why, like, they don't see strong leadership from a Black woman as being the same as when they see that from maybe her white female counterpart or her white male counterpart, because like you said before, that sometimes is interpreted as passion from those individuals versus from Black women. It's considered to be a part of your anger that you really need to go get some therapy for. Another part that was really important, and it's in keeping with that same thought, but it says, and this is something that I like to express because you want people to understand this isn't about one set of leaders over another set, but this is just about the leadership of Black women, because that's what we happen to be talking about. But the article said its central message is not to depreciate the leadership of principals who are not Black women, because that isn't what you want. You want strong leaders of all ethnicities, of all genders, of all races. You want us to be able to represent, because you need strong Latinx leaders. You need strong Caucasian leaders. You need to have strong leaders in order to impact kids. But the article is just saying it's not to depreciate others, but it's also the embracing and the acknowledgement of the fact that Black women principles have been hidden and silenced in the literature by just recognizing their wholeness. And you have to give that credit where credit is due, because and I think this is one of the things that you're going to talk about, Shika. There are some strengths that come with being a Black woman leader.
Most definitely, Tammy. And to add on to that portion that you talked about, that invisibility. So in last week, I referenced the low numbers of representation that there already are holistically with African American leaders, period. But when you look at Black women at the secondary level, the article described us as unicorns because it's almost unheard of at an astonishing 4%. And what it described us as is described it as institutional invisibility and institutional silencing. So when you're not even brought to the table, even though there are in very little numbers, but there is research to show that our impact is impactful. That speaks volumes to our cultures of our education system. And the other thing that I wanted to bring light to is it talked about Black principals serve schools with relatively higher percentages of students who are eligible for free and reduced lunch, higher percentages of students of color. But what they also found is that Black women principals were associated with a higher level of teachers' collective responsibility as perceived by teachers, and higher math achievement scores among students. There was also a positive association between principals' instructional leadership behaviors perceived by teachers and female principles. So I think it's very important for us to bring these things to the forefront, like you said, not to try to heighten anyone over anyone else, but to take away that invisibility, to take away that silencing, to help people, institutions, and organizations check their bias, because this is something that needs to be done, not just in education, but in several industries.
And I think one of the more important things that we have to really take note of when we're talking about Black women leaders in general, but especially when we're speaking to that institutional silencing that you just referenced and that invisibility, we have to make sure that even we, as Black women administrators, recognize the power of the lived experiences that we have. That's what my research focused on. You need to be willing to share that story so that the next generation of Black women leaders, or the next generation of Black women who aspire to be educators, know that you don't have to sell yourself short. You are created and designed intricately to be who you are, but that you have to appreciate that. And instead of shying away from who you are, or feeling the need to bite your tongue because you're in a meeting and you really feel like you need to emphasize what is on your mind, you need to feel free to be able to have the liberty and be at peace to make that happen. You have to have a voice. If somebody else has muted you, you have to come out. Well, I mean, like Sheikah had muted me at the beginning of this. You have to come off mute so somebody can hear you. Because if you don't use your voice, then that silence continues. And what you're going to find if you do any level of research on this topic is that silence is deafening, because your voice really does need to be heard. And I'm going to share just one more thing from the article, because I know it's time for us to start the wrap up. But it says that, and this is from the author's perspective, but it says the experiences of multiple oppressions have often led to dedicated and strong behaviors as caring, service-oriented leaders that are transformative. So finding who you are, being willing to accept what your lived experiences, and she could talk about a myriad of experiences that we've all had. It's not just the two of us, but we've all had our own different background of experiences. Those are the things that make us credible, that make us who we are, and give us the it gives us that right to vocalize exactly who you are and who you represent, because the bottom line is always going to come back down to doing what's right for children. And if you keep your voice, sometimes what happens, the children are the ones who suffer, because you know what's right and you know the right thing to do, you know the right thing to say, but you're biting your tongue because you don't want people to think, here go Tammy talking again. But we encourage you to find that voice and make sure that that voice represents who you are and who you're representing. And those are the staff and the students that you serve every day.
Definitely, Tammy. And the last point that I will add on to what you just said, is that even under the challenging circumstances that I spoke of earlier, Black women principals, and particularly at the secondary level from the article, illustrate their positive influence as cleanup women who are committed to changing negative school cultures and conditions for education of diverse, marginalized students. And it talked about it going back to that identity as a nurturer, as people who want to make a difference in the lives of children. So this article is so impactful and has so many great points that we wanted to make sure we were voicing and bringing the information to the forefront, first of all, that there's not a great deal of representation of us in the literature, which is another way to make us invisible, to make our impact not seen. So if you are getting ready to do any type of research, I encourage you to use this to further this research, to make more literature about the impact of Black women, because it is tremendous. And we said this was going to be the last Saturday that we did this, but I think we might have to do one more, because we haven't even touched the surface on everything that's in the article, and it's time for the announcements. Tammy, can you do the comments while I do the announcements?
I can.
So thank you. If you when I mentioned in the intro, another part of our work is connecting educators and parents to great resources. That innovation is so important to our students and transforming those cultures. So I'll post a newsletter in the comments once we get off. Thank you all for tuning in with us on Saturdays. We're always here with you right after Principal Hurt at 10:30. We are a part of a great professional learning network that starts with Principal Shawn Hurt at 10, us at 10:30. Principal Kafele comes on after us at 10:55. Please join us with him. And then we go over to Sunday with Unlock the Middle with Josh, Tovar, Dean, and Chris. And then on Mondays, we have Dr. Roz Gaskins. I think it's on Mondays, Dr. Roz. It might be Tuesdays. I could be mistaken. Tune in with us on Tuesday. We have another episode of the Collaborative coming up. We do the Collaborative that brings all of our audience together, teachers, leaders, parents, all those that have a vested interest in education together with the Collaborative, because it takes all of us to make the changes that are required. Tuesdays at 7 p.m. We're going to have the great Melissa Jones Chuno on with us. She's an assistant principal from Tulsa, Oklahoma. She's going to be telling us how she keeps it real. So we are very excited to hear what her experiences are and to have her share. And the last thing that I'm going to share with you is a conference that is coming up that we have agreed to help spread the word about, called the Teach Jam Conference. It is going to be in New York City, actually, on November the 7th is the first day of that conference. Here are some of the speakers and the people that will be at that conference. Lots of phenomenal people, many people that we have heard their voice through Principal Kafele's platform. But the one thing that interests me about the conference is that they will be having here it is, the VIP night on Monday, November the 7th. There will be a school tour of what they're describing as a revolutionized school. And I think it's important for us as educators to get outside of our boxes because, we talk about teacher shortage. We talk about children not being engaged, but I don't believe those are the things that are happening. We have a rejection of a current system that is broken, that is in place, is what we have when we don't have enough teachers. People are saying, this is not for me because it doesn't work. Children are saying, I'm not coming to this. I'm not engaging in this because I'm not interested. So we, as the educators, we need to see some revolutionized experiences so we can make these changes happen for children, because we're losing our children. We're losing people, their interest in the profession. So we've got to do something. So I commend these gentlemen for thinking outside of the box, for trying to do something, for showing up. So if you can attend this conference, it's something that I'm definitely going to try to attend, especially that school tour. Please do so. And that website is teachjam.org. And I'll put that in the comments as well. So we are out of time. Thank you all for joining us. Please join us with Principal Kafele next on his platform, and we will see you all next Saturday. Thank you, guys.